Hello there fellow string slingers, and welcome back to another episode of Riff of the Week, where each week I'm going to take you through a riff that has hit me down with enough inspiration to keep us all being loud guitarists for another 7 days. This week I'm going to take you through and dissect the wonderful and amazing opening riff of Purple Haze by, of course, the father of modern guitar, Jimi Hendrix. So without further ado, onwards. We're going to start this riff off simply enough by just hitting the 6 on the low E and interchanging it with the octave, the 8 on the D. So we're going to do that interchange 4 times. For those of you who are curious, or people who just want to be theoretically inclined, these opening notes, these A sharps, are actually a tritone, the flat 5th of the E, the scale we're in. And that's why it has such a jarring sound. But now let's kick into the really satisfying part of the riff. So when this riff kicks into gear, the first little morsel we're going to have to deal with is going to be in which we're going to slide up with our ring fingers to the 9 on the D string, followed by 7 on the G string, then 8 on the B string. And when we get into that 8 on the B string, we're going to give it a little bit of a bend, just a quarter tone bend. And right at the peak of the tension, I'm gonna slam back down to 7 on the D string. For a bit of simplicity with my picking hand, I'm doing this a little bit like an arpeggio, just all downstrokes. Moving on to, in which we're gonna hit the 5th fret of the D string, slight bend, hitting the open D, down to the low E for a big chunk, and then 5th fret, hammer onto 7th fret on the A string. So let's go over that first half slowly and with some tabs. So once you get that part down pat, the next part that we have coming up is so we're going to start this next half of the riff off by hitting the 5th fret on the A string and sliding up to the 7, followed by 5 and 7 on the D string, with a full tone bend at that 7, and then right at the tip of that, back to the 5 again. So what I mean when I say let go of a note right at the tip of the bend is to not allow the note to come back down to rest. You want the note to only ever ascend. Now with a little slide away, coming back to that same note, that same 5 on the D string, in which we're going to go 5 on the D string, 5 on the A string, open E, 3 on the low E. And make sure you don't have a chord hitting. You don't want the notes sustaining over each other. Make sure you have nice separation between them. Make sure that you're taking off, but you still want it to be fluid. Imagine it rolling downhill. So next up we have, in which we're going to hit open A, 5th fret on the A, but you've already barred it so you can easily get to the 5th fret on the D. Then a nice little quick stab on the 7th fret of the D string. So we're going to hit that note one more time, but with a full tone bend. And right at the apex, down to the 5th fret of the D string, followed by sliding up to the 7 again with a little bit of tension. Then slide back down to the 5th fret, open D. So slowly, that whole part goes. So nice and easily followed by, in which you're going to slide up to the 9th fret of the D string, followed by 2 hits on the 7th fret of the G string, and then resolving on the E there, the 9th fret of the G string, followed by a nice little flow stab down on the same note. whole section again slowly and with some tabs. So with this riff, and with Jimi Hendrix's playing in general, you'll notice that it's very idiosyncratic, that there's a lot of strange bends, a lot of strange slides, a few dead notes, and little immediate stops. All of this adds to that chaotic kind of emotive fury that he has, and it's a little bit hard to pin down that and go, that's exactly how he does that. He really taps into what he is trying to get out, and he just lets it out. And so you want to make sure that when you're playing this piece of music, you're not getting bogged down simply playing the notes, because you can sit there and go, and cool, congratulations, you played the riff from Purple Haze. But, you really want to make sure that you're throwing in rhythmic dead notes and strikes with the drums, and make sure that you're throwing in as much emotion as you can, because that's what makes Jimi Hendrix Jimi Hendrix. So moving on from that riff, we end up in the rhythmic section. So we're going to have a nice little bass attack, followed by the stab of the treble. And that same sort of attack method goes throughout all three chords. Speaking of the chords, the first one is going to be an E7 with a sharpened 9. Sharpened knife? Sharpened 9. An E7 with a sharp 9. And that's going to be an open E, 7 on the A string, 6 on the D string, 7 on the G string, and an 8 on the B string. And so following that, we're going to do something that is a very Jimi Hendrix move. We're going to put our thumb over the top of the fretboard and fret a note on the low E. In this case, the G and then the A. And we're going to do a G major, which is just going to be 5 on the D string, 4 on the G string, 3 on the B string, and of course your thumb on the 3rd fret of the E string. And then finally an A major, which is going to be the exact same shape as the G major from before, except one whole tone higher. And put that all together, you get this wonderful piece of music. And make sure when you hit that E7 sharp 9 that you give it a bit of swagger. Thank you everybody for joining me today, and I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did enjoy today's video, make sure that you click like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss a video, so I am ever present in your social media feed. Much like a meme you thought would be dead by now, but alas is not. I'm Brandon Valentine, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you guys next time.